Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars, come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am your hostess for the evening. Again, with me, as always, is the most awesome producer on the planet. Well, one of two that I know of. My friend, Rick. How are you tonight?
I'm cooler, you know it. It's okay.
No, you're both tie, at least with me. So,
Not what she said off air, Jeff. Just kidding. Welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing, Miss Aggie? How's things?
I'm doing pretty good. It has been a very interesting day, let's just say.
Yeah. Who knew when I woke up today that the day was going to be quite this much fun? So
I did not know.
Yeah. So I do have to show off something because I was kind of proud of this. I used this for the news wrap up earlier today. So I started tweeting out that we have an intern who snuck into Hakeem Jeffrey's office, and then I did this for like half the show.
That's pretty funny.
Again, I don't normally try to do victory laps because I know how quickly stuff like this can turn, but he was being a douche for like weeks until this happened, and everybody's like, you guys broke the law, right? And even I'm pretty sure even Scoville was like, yeah, we're gonna just make sure you guys don't try to pull anything this damn stupid ever again. especially when they were the ones that said, please hold your decision until after the referendum, because I'm pretty sure they were like, well, the results will already be in and they'll see what the people actually want, and then they'll just be like, yeah, it doesn't really matter if it's unconstitutional because you guys voted for it. Yeah, that ain't how any of that works. No. And I think it was kind of like when Alito earlier this week, I think it was Alito, SmackDown KBJ, or KJB. What is it? KBJ. I always miss up her name initials because when somebody tried to hit them again and say, hey, you guys want to reconsider this? They sent them back a 9-0, just get bent kind of thing. And then she took to the interwebs and, well, I don't know if we should have done what we did this close to the election. And he's like, hey, you remember we actually decided this back in like 7 months ago? You guys were the ones slow walking your paperwork. He just flat out threw her under the bus, and it was kind of delicious. I think a lot of these folks are just tired of all the drama and then, the same thing I tell everybody is why when everybody was like, I'm going to vote for Mom Donnie, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And we got to figure out how to stop it. No, we don't. Let them face their consequences. And now they are, because dude who said everything was free was like, we're broke. I don't know what to do. Because nothing's free. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
Nope. But we had to pay homage because today was right. Okay, a red banner day. Let's just put it that way.
Well played.
So, but anyway, no, tonight's topic has up. Usually we try to stay away from politics. Obviously, we just couldn't do it today because it was schadenfreude delicious. So we kind of had to sneak that in a little bit. But no, today's topic harkens back to a few days ago that there was a conflagration on X over a certain young woman's post that touched raw nerves around pretty much everybody. Everybody was really there were some people that supported her, but there were a lot of people, many more, 95% of which did not. I'm gonna say, I mean, there were a lot of replies. She ended up locking down. She ended up, you know, deactivating for a while. She came back, still locked down, and I'm not even sure where she's at right now. But she was a young, woman, and she wrote a little screed on post about meeting somebody from X, and she wrote, and I'm going to read the whole thing to you. She wrote, there was a guy from Twitter who used to send me flowers weekly for a while. We met in real life for the first time and went to dinner about a month ago. After that, he asked me out again. I thanked him and was honest that I didn't think we'd be compatible long term and shouldn't continue. He hasn't sent me flowers once since then. It's always good to have an opportunity to see someone's true character when they don't think they're going to get what they want from you anymore. Like someone who was genuinely invested in your happiness would have kept sending flowers. That's her post. And I was rather stunned with the lack of awareness in the second to the last paragraph where she was talking about someone's true character, because that applied to her in spades. You saw her true character come out when she wrote this. Now, I will say this is probably completely fake. She may have done this for engagement purposes to raise, her monetization, perhaps to gain more followers, to get attention. This may have been just a ploy for attention, because I could not find anywhere where a guy came out and said, hey, I thought we had a great time, but why should I invest my money on you if you're not going to date me? I never saw anything like that. And people looked for it because, as everybody knows, everybody loves a good soap opera. especially me. And I couldn't find anything. And lots of us could not find any guy that actually admitted to being the person that she's referring. Now, most men tend to be smart and not, go ahead and say something that would point out to that they were the ones. So maybe he kept it on the down low because he did not want to get any pushback from her followers or whoever was supporting her in this endeavor. But it it kind of brought to mind that there are women that think like this, and there are some young men that think this way too. That dating is supposed to, you're supposed to be treated like this statue on a pedestal while you're dating someone. And I think society has done a great disservice in the past, I want to say about 20-25 years. Ever since social media became a thing, a big thing, I think that's when this started to deteriorate. So let's put it at 20. And like I said, I couldn't find a lot. And it just seems to me like this was very forced because she actually wrote another post saying, sorry for being so offline today. For some reason, I got inundated with flower deliveries. And I'm like, who's sending you flowers? I mean, how many people have your address here on X? I mean, why would you do that? Why would you give your, I don't understand that. That kind of threw me for a loop, and she's talking about they must have thought it was my birthday. No, you wrote that this guy stopped sending you flowers, and then you decided to say this, and perhaps to actually gain more sympathy or whatever. And she she said that this was, she just likes to be funny and kind, and perhaps she should be the one sending flowers and all that stuff. And a friend of mine actually got it into her head. Oh my goodness. Do y'all remember proper opinion, prop op, that raccoon in, five raccoons in a trench coat guy?
I'm sorry. I was laughing at something M said and forgot I was muted. So
No, do you remember prop op? He was the five raccoons in a trench coat guy.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Okay. It gave me the same vibe. Like this is completely pretend to get engagement. Now, there are some people that knew prop op from, you know, in a more personal way, and they all thought he just suffered lack of good judgment, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll give him some grace on that. Um, he, to the best of my understanding, he never actually did something that would denigrate somebody else online. It was always a very positive lie that he was always pushing, as opposed to a negative one like this one. So I'm not saying that what he did was correct. I'm just saying that it was slightly different. This time, this girl actually was saying that if you want to make somebody happy, you should invest in sending them flowers. Well, to a certain degree, that is true. I love sending my mother flowers. I'm not getting anything but her enjoyment out of it, but she's my mom. My investment is making her happy because she's my mother. What I get out of it is seeing her happy because this has been a rough year for her. So that is what I get in return. And my sisters feel the same way. My brother feels the same way. That makes sense to me. But when you're out in the dating world, and thank God that I will never be in it because I
Shut it.
told myself if
Shut
ever
it.
something happens, I am just not getting back in there. No, it's just not worth it. But right now in the dating world, there is this expectation. You see posts of women, more women than you do men, but yes, men also do this kind of thing where they say, I expect the guy to do this. I expect for him to give me what I deserve. And that is the dirtiest word in dating. What you deserve. Believe me, if you ever say that to somebody, then what you deserve is shit. Because that's not the way courtship works. It isn't. And this is it, like I said, social media has done a lot to destroy what courtship used to be like. I mean, I remember my sister, she's a librarian, and her current husband, when he first saw her as a librarian, he started going to the library twice a week to check out books. He wasn't reading them, he was checking them out. But he
No, hang on. Let me fix that for you. He wasn't there to check out books. He was there to check her out and was checking out books as a cover. Let's fix that.
yes, that's exactly it. And so for me, I thought that that was a sweet story. For her, she thought it was kind of bizarre because she'd never been courted that way, you know. And eventually, his courtship became like, he would come in and he would talk about the books that he checked out, and she would ask him if he liked them, and he would say, and so she would ask him, what do you like? And so he would tell her, and then he would ask her, what kind of books do you like? And so they would start talking about books, and then eventually that moved to other areas of interest. And finally, after 4 months of my brother-in-law doing this, he got up the courage to go and ask her out for a date. And my sister's word to him was like, you should have asked me like the third week you came in. She had been waiting, but she knew that there was a certain dance that you do in a courtship ritual, and that was their dance. The whole, getting to know each other in a public setting, starting with the books and moving from that. And, they've been married, I want to say 22 years now. So obviously it has worked to their advantage.
And it
But
worked out. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much past one of the last the last off ramp phases. I don't know if you've ever well, I think it wasn't Friends. I think it was How I Met Your Mother. One of the bits that Barney always used to say is there are stages where the woman's usually looking for an off ramp, and it's 5 years, 10 years, and 17 years. And usually, if you make it past that point, you're okay. And of course, I didn't start watching that show until after my now ex-wife left at exactly 17 years. And I was like, you son of a bitch. So, yeah. But yeah, so when you're like, I'm just glad I'm never going to be in the dating realm. Shut up.
I know. It sounds bad, but keep
No,
in
I
mind,
know.
I'm also resigning myself to being alone for.
I'm just
So
teasing you. I'm teasing you anyway. But yeah, no, I mean, as somebody who is now back in the dating field, I can tell you the amount of entitlement that's out there now is absolutely insane. But part of it is because of social media, because they've all got rosters. So even if you can get their attention for 5 minutes, the second you do something wrong, they've got somebody else in their DMs or in their messages going, hey, baby, how you doing? You look good today. Yeah, that guy pissed me off. Let me talk to you for a while instead. And then if they get mad at that one, then they'll come back to you and be like, why haven't you texted me in like a week? Because you can text too and you haven't been. That's why. And it's the same thing. It's like, and even the couple of times that I've put myself out there, it's, me been trying to do the showing interest, getting flowers, buying, not expensive, extravagant gifts or anything, but letting them know I was thinking about them. And then as nice as that attention has been, I think we need to just stay friends. And then, and this has happened to me on more than one occasion in the last 6 years. So then a couple weeks go by and we're still, laughing, joking, texting, whatever. How come you haven't sent me a present lately? So the thing that drove me nuts about that is it reminded me of one of the Eddie Murphy stand-up routines from forever ago when he's like, I got me an African wife because they're not as dumb as you American, they're not as needy as you American women. And then all of a sudden the African wife comes to America, and then a couple years later it's like, what have you done for me lately, Eddie? Yeah, that's exactly how that feels. Because once you friend zone me, I will talk to you, I will hang out with you, but I am not going to go out of my way to arrange spending time with you unless it's something that we both enjoy. And I'm not going to go out of my way to spend money on you anymore either, because we're friends. And I don't know how many other guys you have waiting in the wings. So I'm definitely not going to be I'm sending you a present all of a sudden. Someone just, yes. Why are you sending my woman presents? I didn't know she was your woman. I apologize. Yeah, not doing that. Not doing that. But yeah, I mean, the level of entitlement is insane, and the level of it's now that there's like 40 million different kinds of social media apps and dating apps and everything else. It's like everything's become transactional.
Yes, it
I
has.
mean, and it's just insane to me. I mean, at this point, not to steal a page from Amish's book, but it's cheaper and less stressful just to go buy a hooker for the night and be done with it. Because
Absolutely.
from a guy's perspective, you're paying for it anyway, one way or the other. So you
But
might
this
as well.
way, it's a transaction that you both get satisfaction from. So,
Well, I mean, and even if she don't, I'm paying her. So why do I care? Just saying. Just saying. But yeah, so the whole thing is just nuts to me. So when you brought that up the other day, I was like, yeah, we probably should really talk about that. But I'm probably going to sound really bitter and really cranky because I have not had good luck in the modern dating scene. And I never really did much dating in the first place. I was always one of those serial monogamy kind of guys. I would
well, it
get interested in somebody, get involved with them, and stayed with them. I mean, I've only dated 5 people my entire life. I married 4 of them, or 3 of them, no, I guess 2. So married, so dated 5, engaged to 3, and married 2. So, and my shortest relationship was 4 years. So,
well, I see it from my niece's point of view. I have, how many nieces do I have? I have quite a few.
you sound like
I
me
have
with
quite a few.
grandkids.
I'm like, I'm counting mentally in my head, but I always forget. So, as far as my nieces go, all of them are pretty, have their heads pretty straight on, and have goals and everything. There's 2 that do not, and they fall into this category. One of them is actually a single mother, and she does believe that she needs to find someone that will treat her the way she feels she should be treated. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you having your self-worth. That is, that's necessary. You really should have good self-worth. You need to know, you need to understand that you are a valuable person. But in her case, what she means is the man has to do this amount of money. The man has to provide this type of car, not a car, this type of car. Okay. This type of domicile, and a certain level of luxury. Now, keep in mind, she lives in low income housing because, as I said, she's a single mother, and that's pretty much all she can afford at this time. But she is setting her sights on somebody that has all of these qualifications that are all financial. And like I said, there is nothing wrong with you wanting to marry somebody that has steady income. I totally get that. But for her, it's not about the steady income. It's about the 6 figures. Okay. And I'm like, girl, where are you going to find somebody like this? And she's on at least 6 dating apps, first of all. Um, she she is not somebody who really adheres to any kind of religion. She doesn't have a deep faith. For her, her faith is more self-involved, you know, and she calls herself spiritual, and she does the chakra thing and the crystals and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. You're not gonna find a guy. Well, you may find him in a crystal shop, but I don't know. He might be just as kooky as you. No
Oh
idea.
no,
But
there'll, there'll, there'll be a guy using crystal, but it'll probably be crystal meth.
well, that's how she. Yeah. Okay. So we won't get into that one. That's for another. That's for another show. Anyway,
I hit a nerve.
that's for another show. But she has set herself some standards that, in my opinion, and I have told her this, are extremely superficial. And she asked why I think that, and I said, well, look at the father of your child. He is HVAC worker. He is licensed, to work on these things, and he apparently has a really good job. It's not six figures, and it is a trade skill. They were engaged, and then they broke off like halfway through the pregnancy or something like that. Apparently, he's still a very responsible father. He's very much involved with the child, and so I can't really fault him for that, because I get the sneaky suspicion that my niece had something to do with the breakup, more her than him. But I never actually asked. It's just a vibe I get from the attitude that I see. And so I was telling her, I said, you had the opportunity to have a solid relationship with this young man, and he obviously puts in the work as the dad to your child, and he provides for you too, even though you guys never married. He actually provides you with a certain allowance to help you and her, not just child support. So I can't really call it alimony because it wasn't court directed. And I said, that's what you look for. You look for a responsible individual, somebody that understands that he has responsibilities and follows through, regardless of whether or not he has a six-figure income or can provide you with an Alfa Romeo. Yes, that's the car. That's the car she wants
Wow.
because her mother has one. But my sister can afford it. Okay. So this is where I'm just like, what is going on with you? And she, she was lamenting the fact that, and this is how the whole conversation started. Her handbag, her handbag was falling apart. And I said, well, listen, I have plenty of handbags. I can spare one or two for you, so that, because she does work as a preschool teacher, so she needs something that she can carry all her stuff in. And I said, I have some handbags that are pretty big. So, and she said, no offense, but I don't like your taste. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And my sister lit
Oh
into her.
no,
It's like,
she didn't.
yes, she did. And my sister was like, what does it matter? It's a free handbag. And and she points to me, that she doesn't buy anything that's not leather. And it's okay. That's one of my foibles. It's true. All my bags are leather. But why would you turn that down? And she's like, well, it's not my taste, so I don't want to wear it. I don't want to use them. I'm like, okay, that I looked at my sister and I was like, you know what? That's fair. I made the offer. She doesn't have to take it. She obviously doesn't have to take it. And but she has certain standards that whoever she is courted by needs to meet, and she does not understand that her standards are too high to be met, and no guy is going to be like, what are you bringing to the table? And so I asked her that. I said, okay, so suppose you do find a man that does have a six-figure income and is willing to purchase the car of your dreams. What then? What are you bringing to the table? And she says, what do you mean? And I said, what are you bringing to the relationship? Because he will have expectations from you. And you know what she said to me? She said, he should have none. He should be just happy with who I am. Those were her words to me. And I'm just like, she's going to stay alone for a very long time. There was I would like to say that my niece is 22. She is not. She's 36. Okay. It's not like she is just fresh out of her teen years. This is a woman in her mid 30s. And this is her attitude. And I'm like, you're on the near side of 40. This is not going to be working for you.
You're about to be past your sell-by date. You better be adjusting some standards here. But no, I mean, so back to the whole handbag thing for a second, because the way she reacted to you tells me exactly how she treats anybody that may or may not show any interest to her. Because you're right, it was her choice. She could have said no, but you know what she could have said? You know what, and Aggie, I really appreciate that, but it's okay because I'm just going to go find one that I know for sure that I will use. But I really do appreciate you at least offering. Not, well, no offense, but your taste sucks. Hell with that.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
I
I
mean,
was. This is, to show you the entitlement that is in this young woman. After my father died, we were still confined at my mother's house, and she was in my dad's old room with her daughter. My a couple of my nephews, two of my brothers-in-law were in the den, and they were watching Ancient Aliens, which awesome because that whole alien drop happened today. So hey, there's a tie-in. But they were watching Ancient Aliens on History Channel or whatever. And she comes in with her daughter and grabs the remote control and goes to change the channel. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Oh, this show is trash." And I looked at her and said, "There's 5 people here that are watching and enjoying that show. So if you would like to change it, you need to ask their permission." Well, she put the remote control down and she walked off. This is the kind of entitlement that she has. And I'm honestly, I love her, but she's not one of my favorite people. She she really isn't. I have had a lot of issues with her because she honestly feels that she knows better than everybody else. And this is the problem that you have with a lot of the women that you see online saying, I expect my man to give me this, that, the other thing, and another thing on top of that to make it better. You see this constantly. And you see, a lot of people rip into them, this is fodder for X, this is fodder for Facebook, this is fodder for Instagram. And, it helps with it's complete clickbait as far as I'm concerned. I'm there for the soap opera though, you know me. But this is I actually know real live and in person somebody like this, and she's not even the worst one of the two.
you
That's
know,
the sad part. She's not the worst one of the two. Her younger sister, who is 30, is worse.
oof.
And I'm just like, I I don't know. I don't know what to do. It's not my job to do anything, but it's like,
You,
how do
you know,
I?
you know what you do next time she's over and she says something like that. You just, I mean, literally reenact the Pontius Pilate thing. Go get a, go get a bowl of water, bring it over, wash your hands in front of her, be like, I'm done. You're on your own. Bye. Bye, Felicia. But no, I mean, seriously, back, just since it is a bit of a tie-in, I have to make a joke since you brought up Ancient Aliens. So there's a
Uh-huh.
reason that guy's the host and nobody knows because, yeah, most of that
A
guy you see on
totalist?
TV, yeah, most of that guy that you see on TV is a robot. He's an alien. The alien is the hair. Just saying.
I gotta say, he's got a fabulous head of hair.
I
His skull's
mean,
not that great, but his hair is.
leave it to the anthropologist. Not a fan of his skull, but the hair, yeah. I mean, he's not well coiffed, but he's definitely coiffed. It's a little weirdly, but yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, and that's part of it though. The entitlement, and it's about there. So it's about anybody usually around 30, 35-ish and younger that is old enough to date just thinks that they're entitled to anything and everything. And and the problem is it's not really even just them anymore because like I'm about to be 53. So
Dun, dun, dun.
even with the older crowd, they're like, yeah, I expect this and I expect this and I expect this. And I'm like, okay, so you see everything I do, you see how hard I work, you see everything I have. What exactly do you bring to the table? You know what I get back? I bring nothing to the table except this. And they're like puffing out their chest and I'm like, that's not enough. Yes, those things are fun. I enjoy them,
They are
but
called fun bags for a reason.
that's not enough. But yeah, I mean, seriously, I'm just like, yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I'll be 53 in a couple of weeks. I never expected to be single again. And I don't enjoy it, but I'm also fine with being alone because everything's insane now.
It is. It has gotten very crazy. Like I said, the second news is even worse. And I my mother actually called me because she felt that this was beyond egregious, and she told me of a situation with that niece. And I told mom, I said, you're gonna have to cut her off, you're gonna have to let her go. And my mom, she's 80, she's very set in her ways, and she asked me, how can I possibly do that? And I said, Mom, there comes a time that you have to understand that you did everything to earn our respect. If you're not being respected, the fault lies with them, and you need to cut them off. You need to just cut them off out of your. And she's like, have you done that? I said, I did it with both of them. They're gone. There's one niece that I have not spoken to in 8 years. I have not spoken to her at all. She's not aware that I'm not speaking to her, mind you, because she is so self-involved that she has not noticed that I have completely stepped away from her life and have absolutely no interaction with her, neither on social media or when we're in the same area together. She doesn't notice. Everybody else has noticed, but she doesn't. That's how self involved she is. And I'm perfectly fine with her being self involved and not noticing it, and frankly going on with her life. Because for me, it's not about her noticing that I did this to her. For me, it's about I need to keep her out of my life because she is she's toxic. She is not a good person, and I don't need that negativity in my life. So, you know, this is one thing. This is a gift that my dad gave me. I got this from my dad. My mom actually told me that 2 days ago. It's like, you're so much like your father. And I said to her, thank you. And she said, I wasn't complimenting you. I said, I know.
And yet I still said thank you.
Instead, I still thanked her. But, and it was like, my daughter asked me, it's like, you still haven't talked to her? I said, no. I told myself I was never speaking to her again after what she did. And I'm good with that. It's fine. I kept going. I have no expectations from her. I don't expect her to even notice. And that's fine. It's about me taking care of myself and me taking care of, buffeting my soul against somebody who is constantly trying to wear it down. I don't need it. So I remove it from my life, and it's it's not as easy as I make it sound, but one thing that you all know about me is that I have very strong willpower, and if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I will do it. Hence the Lenten diet every year. I It's a test for me to actually give up all of these things for 40 days and 40 nights and random, and five, 5 or 6 Sundays. And most people are like, how do you do it? I said, very carefully. I don't know, but I just tell myself that's what I'm doing and I do it. So when I told myself, yeah, I'm just not going to deal with her anymore, she is out of my life and I'm fine. I followed through 8 years. She has not noticed because she is that self-involved. Everybody else knows about it, but they're not going to tell her because what good would it do? So, um, and it's funny because her stepmother, my sister-in-law, sometimes she'll call me. It's like the countdown is still on. I said, oh yeah, and she will laugh because it's for her. It's kind of hilarious that my niece has not noticed. But she doesn't need my presence in her life. She doesn't. So of course she's not gonna notice or anything. And I don't need her presence in my life. So there you go. It's difficult following through, especially at times when um, she had her baby. Um, Also, not sure she's with the father of the baby anymore, but another story for another show.
Bum,
But
bum, bum, bum.
yeah, I let me tell you, I mean, it's rampant in my family, I swear. But the end result is I don't have to deal with her bad vibes. I don't need to be worn down by her negativity. I don't need to be scolded. I don't need to be yelled at for not understanding her. And I certainly don't need my politics or my faith questioned at every turn. She can question my faith, that's fine. But I don't need everything else questioned at every turn, like the way she does, and her belligerence was always misguided, in my opinion. So yeah, I was done with that. But she is also of the class where she expects certain things from the guy that she's dating. And when pushed to provide what she is going to bring to the relationship, her response is always, I'm bringing myself. Look at me. I'm so beautiful. Now, admittedly, she is a very pretty young woman, and she was a lingerie model for a time. So, yeah, a lot of men are very attracted to my niece. So for
Already
her, she
proclaiming,
thinks huh?
sorry, I was going to say, already proclaiming he can fix her in 5, 4.
But that is for me, when I was, dealing with that, this is what she brings to the table, is her physical attributes is what she brings to the table. And I'm like, so basically you're telling the guy that all you are is just a bunch of icing. There is absolutely no cake underneath. And I said that to my other niece, the other single mother. And she said, what's wrong with that? And I said, you don't want a guy to actually like you because of the brains of the operation. You just want to look pretty for him and, be eye candy. Is that it? She said, if that gets me a guy that can take care of me, yeah. That's
The
where,
trophy wife syndrome.
that's where a lot of these women are at right now. And I'm not discounting that there's some men out there like that. I'm very sure there are. But the thing is, society has made it near impossible for men to actually have a good, steady relationship with a woman where the woman is not demanding things from the guy without actually providing things for the guy. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's part of it. And that's kind of one of those things that you run into all the time anymore. I mean, it's just like, and I'm not belittling anybody in the chat, but Dave was like, big fun bags are always enough. And I'm sorry, I disagree. Both of my wives were well endowed, but eventually that's not enough. When you start trying to have a serious conversation with someone and they just refuse, or you try to have an intelligent conversation and they can't, eventually, the being able to get what you want, when you want, anytime you want, does eventually start to get old when that's all there is. And and vice versa, there were things that my second wife wanted that I wasn't able to do, and there were things that I wanted that she wasn't able to do, which is part of the reason why she's not here anymore. And that's fine. But when that's it, and trust me, in my 20s, that was all I was really worried about. And then I got older, and I'm like, that's all this is, and I don't really know what to do with that anymore. And if you're only there because you need me to provide for you financially, and you're giving me pretty much nothing in return other than access to do some fun stuff once in a while, eventually that gets really old. Just saying.
Yeah, it's true. And, like I said, I'm not going to discount men. There are some men that are like that. I mean, we're old enough. I don't know about you, but I watched American Gigolo with Richard Gere. I know that exists. And there are some men that are looking for sugar mamas as well. They are. But it just seems very unbalanced in one direction. And when you're looking for a sugar daddy or sugar mama, it's with the understanding that you're going to be providing a certain aspect of the relationship in return for being taken care of. People go into something like that eyes wide open. They both agree on the terms. So I can't equate that with courtship. Courtship
Well,
is
it's not. It's
different.
more of a situationship anyway. But yeah, I actually had somebody blatantly tell me recently that they were looking for a sugar daddy, and it kind of turned into an episode of Pawn Stars. I was like, oh, yep, sorry, best I can do is sweet and low. Yeah.
Sweet and low. Oh my God, all the aspartame. Well, like I said, there is a serious, I I don't want to say it's a void or a chasm, but there's a separation, I suppose, when it comes to courtship that this particular new generation does not seem to understand. And when I was growing up, one of the things that I noticed that happened in my parents' relationship is my mom always did for my dad. She always took care of things in the house. She took care of my dad. She made sure everything was running smoothly. She gave 70 to 80%, expecting nothing. My dad provided for the house, provided mom with whatever she needed for the house, provided mom with whatever she needed for us, provided us with everything that we needed, all that stuff. He gave, in that respect, he gave more than my mom did because he was the main breadwinner, or at least the breadwinner, I should say. But also, if mom ever needed anything, like suddenly she wanted to go to Puerto Rico, my dad thought nothing of buying a ticket right then and there. Didn't even ask questions. Why do you need to go? What's going on? Nothing. He didn't. It did not matter to him because this is what my mom wanted, and he wanted to please her. And so, even though their giving and taking was completely different in aspect, they still balance each other out. And that's something that I learned in every relationship that I have, whether it's marriage, whether it's friendship, whether it's familial, with my sisters, with my brother, with my nieces and nephews, with the exceptions of those that I've cut off from my life. I give more than what I expect. As a matter of fact, I don't expect anything back from anybody. um, I remember the first time that I started sending rocks out, somebody said, what can I give you in return for this rock? And I said, nothing. I wanted to send you the rock so that you could enjoy it. You can use it as a paperweight. You can put it over there to look at it. You can do whatever you want with the rock. If you want to give it away to somebody else to make them happy, feel free. You don't have to keep the rocks that I send. They're just to provide you with some joy until such time that you want to, either, if you want to keep the joy forever, that's fine. If you want to spread it to somebody else, that's fine too. It wouldn't hurt my feelings at all. Actually, that's what I do with the rocks. I put them for people to find, and then people put them somewhere else to find, and they just, one of my rocks actually made it to Kansas City. Did you know that? I had no
Did not know that.
idea it
That's cool.
traveled that far. And I found one that was from Alexandria, Virginia. So, these rocks travel all over the place. But, you know, I was taken aback that somebody actually felt the need to reciprocate. And I was like, no, there is no need for you to give back to me. When I give with the expectation of pleasing that person, and that is enough for me. I learned that lesson very early on in my life, but it seems like that lesson is no longer taught. And this is what's happening with courtship nowadays. That lesson needs to be taught. You need to learn that you're here. If you're going to be courting with somebody, you need to have, you need to meet their expectations and they need to meet yours. So you need to give and make sure that what you're giving is enough for them to appreciate, grow further, become a better person because of your influence in their life. That's how courtship works. That's how it worked with my sister and my brother-in-law. He would come into the library twice a week to check out books that he never read. Now he's reading books. Now it's a competition. For the past few years, they've been in a competition to outread each other because she's a librarian. She reads a book a day almost. Sometimes, you know. So they're in a competition now. But back then, he wasn't a big reader. But he saw her in the library and he was like really attracted to my sister. And so he was looking to court her in a way that she would understand, which was books. One of my favorite movies. And I cannot stand Will Ferrell for, for most of his, filmography. But this particular movie I really, really enjoyed, and it was Stranger Than Fiction. And he meets Maggie Gyllenhaal, who plays a baker. She's an anarchist baker. Okay. She doesn't like paying her taxes, so she's being audited. He is a tax auditor. And he starts figuring out, ways that she can, you know, claim things to reduce her tax, burden and all this stuff and everything. And she really doesn't want to give him the time of day. And one night she's closing up her bakery and she turns around and he's standing there with a box. And she's looking at him like, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I thought I would bring you flowers." They weren't flowers like the kind that grow from the ground. They were separate little bags of flower, different types of flowers for baking. That's courtship. You watch a person, you learn about that person by watching, by paying attention, and then you begin courting that person in that manner, and that's missing today. A lot of the young people don't know to do that. They don't watch other people, they're constantly watching themselves. And this is why courtship, in my opinion, is failing.
Well, I mean, part of it is again social media because everybody's become the protagonist in their own story and they think they're the only ones that matter. Everybody else is an NPC, so they're going to get what they want when they want, and who the hell cares? But also, the other drawback to that is because, especially so many in the Gen Z and millennial crowd, spend so much time doom scrolling, and maximum you usually pay attention to that stuff 30, 45 seconds at a time. Nobody invests enough attention to anything anymore to be able to say, oh, this person likes this. Maybe I can, if I'm really trying to get their attention, maybe I can do something like that. So those kind of things don't really happen anymore, which, because, and honestly, that's one of the reasons why I was kind of surprised when I went back into the dating sphere, because I am one of those people that pays attention to things. But the other thing is, 'cause, I haven't been on that many dates since I've been divorced, and I've been divorced now going on 6 years. But the other thing is, it's like every date's a speed date kind of thing because it turns into an interview.
Yes.
Like by halfway through dessert, they're like, "So where do you see this thing in 5 years?" I'm like, "We haven't even decided if we're gonna have a second date yet. Why are you asking me about 5 years from now?" It's just, yeah, it's so overwhelming, and it's the reason why I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care anymore. I tried a couple of times with people that I thought were really going to be people that I could get involved with, and it just turned into, well, I think we're better off as friends. And I'm like, so and for the ones that I'm talking about, it was the same kind of thing with this chick with the flowers. I was putting in effort for months at a time because they were leading me to believe that at some point there could be more than what we just had here. And then someday, one day, it just turned into, well, after I've had some time to think about it, I don't really think so. I'm like, okay, so I just wasted months of my life and months of my time. And I'm not trying to be bitter about it or anything, but I'm not young anymore. It was no big deal when I was in my 20s. And I never was one of those people anyway, but if I wanted to be, I could bounce from date to date in my 20s. I didn't care. But now I'm like, I'm older now. I just kind of want to know, is there something here or not? Instead of well, maybe not. We'll find out. But it's all nuts. But again, it goes back to, there's so many different dating apps now, and now there's all these reports that Gen Z is getting burned out on the apps because they have swipe fatigue, and now they're trying to go back to doing things in person, but they don't really know how to do that anymore either. So they're just interviewing everybody, and I'm just like, ugh.
Well, that is also a result of social media and the smartphone, the smart tablet, the smart items, the laptops, all of those things. There was a study that was conducted that revealed that children in this generation that grew up with the advent, when they were about 12 years old, that's when the smartphone and the iPads and all that stuff started coming out. And they transferred their attention to the online activities instead of in-person activities, where you learn about friction between people. You learn to structure your relationships, all of that happens right before you go into your teens. And that has been taken away. And that's why you find a lot of people not knowing how to conduct themselves in public. That's why you find, the other day there was uh, a I want to say it was Daily Mail or Telegraph or New York Times, I don't know. Some paper came out and said that millennials and Gen Z, specifically Gen Z, rather, are bringing their parents to interviews because they've never had to deal with rejection. You've had the helicopter parent for so long. And yes, Gen X is guilty of that. I'll be the first person to say that because there was a time when I had my children that I wanted to like hover over them and protect them and everything. And I was like, you know what? My mom didn't do that for me. If I was in the house when she was cleaning the house, she either put me to work. So I left and I didn't come back until the sun was like halfway down. You know, I didn't want to clean house. So of course I left the house and I was roaming the neighborhoods. I was going up and down literal mountains in my hometown when I was 7 and 8 years old because I did not want to deal with cleaning the house. So there was a time that I fell into a cave, but that's another story for another time. Anyway, but the kids were not taught how to resolve conflicts in person with people their age on the playground. Hell, they've taken recess away because it's too dangerous. They took away the monkey bars and they took away everything. They put down very cushy stuff because you didn't want your child to hurt themselves. Hell no, I wanted my kids eating dirt if they fell because that would teach them, hey, next time I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it a different way. And I cannot tell you how often my son came home with scrapes and cuts and bruises, and there was the broken arm incident, there was the broken tooth incident, he just got into everything. And I was perfectly fine with that. Yeah, except the broken arm thing, everything else was I could handle okay. Um but I was just like if you do not learn from an early age how to resolve conflicts with your peers, you will be susceptible to a lot of bullying. You will be susceptible to a lot of cyberbullying as well. And you will not be able to communicate outside of your sphere at all. This is why you have parents showing up with their sons or daughters to interviews. And employers are like kind of freaking out because the people who are interviewing you didn't go through that. They're much older. So they're not sure how to handle having a parent there. And admittedly, it's completely different if you're taking your son or daughter to get a physical or if they need to go to the doctor for any reason. I can understand that because you never know if some issue's going to come up, but not a job interview. And even though jobs interview is not courtship, it is a one-on-one interaction with somebody that you're going to invest in. You're going to invest in this company if they hire you. They're going to invest in you if they hire you. So yeah, there is a certain type of courtship going on when it comes to something like this. And this is where we are at in society today. Men and women do not know how to court each other. And I'm not talking about men with women and women with men. I'm talking, if men and men want to court each other or women and women want to court each other, whatever. They don't know how to do it because they were never taught about failure and disappointment, conflict. They don't know how to observe other people and learn from them. They're busy observing themselves on social media. You see all of these people posting, about the day that they had and all of the stuff that they did. And yeah, sure, I do the same thing too. But in private, in chat
Yeah, but
messages or whatever, we ask
but
each other, hey.
But yeah, seriously though, our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
So that's why it's okay when we do it, because our shenanigans are cheeky and fun. All right, so a couple quick tips, backing up a little bit. So about the kids or parents going to interviews and the whole, Gen X kind of starting the whole hover parent thing. That's because a lot of Gen X kids felt abandoned and had all kinds of issues from it, and they didn't want their kids to feel that way, so they overcorrected and went the wrong way. So I mean, even I did
Yeah.
that for a while when I was younger. And then I was like, yeah, no, this isn't working because my kids are not figuring out how to do anything.
Yeah,
And
I
then
know,
as
and
far,
it was true.
but yeah, but then as far as people not knowing how to date, they don't necessarily know how to handle breakups either, based on what I just put on the screen. But I don't know why he dumped her. I'm just saying. So yeah, apparently an ex-Dallas Cowboy cheerleader was arrested after hiring a marching band to follow her ex-boyfriend around or to work for 9 straight days.
Well, that's a little
I mean,
stalkish.
yeah, but yeah, but yeah, but Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. I'm
Former,
saying.
former. Um,
But yeah,
yeah, I knew a couple of the Houston Oilers. I knew a couple of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders too, and they're all. I'm gonna say it. All of the ones that I ever met were salt of the earth, and you would think that they would be like really high on themselves and everything. They were not, and the reason for that is that this was a side gig. This was not their job. This was not their usual everyday thing. I think one of them was actually a special education teacher, one of the first ones that I ever uh, knew about before special ed was a regular position in public schools. So you know, so but maybe she was just like, "Oh no, you will not forgive me." She went all full, boiler bunny on him, didn't she?
I mean, but yeah, Amish makes a great point. He's like, I'd fucking love that. I'd call that my theme music on the way to work.
And see, and this is the difference. This guy is probably a millennial, a Gen Xer. Like, we would love that shit. I was like, oh my God, look at the attention I'm getting. I am queen.
I mean, I could honestly I could see Amish like, not even driving to work that day, he's just marching and just dancing down the sidewalk while the band's following him and like, this is awesome. Yeah, no, I could actually probably kind of see that. But not taking the buggy to work that day just so he can enjoy the band. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's the whole thing of everything is just so different now. And again, I understand because the technology that we are complaining about is the same technology that allows us to do what we're doing right now. So
Mhm.
I understand. But the thing about it is, it's just like any other technology. There are good things about it, there are bad things about it. One of the worst things about it, especially when you couple it with COVID, is we don't know how to interact with anybody anymore. And a
No.
lot of the younger generation doesn't even care to learn. They just don't. They're just like, I'm gonna and it's this whole like, with your nieces. They're not looking for a relationship. They're looking for a situationship. They just want somebody that's going to be able to take care of them and do all the things that they need them to do, and then they'll give them what they want in return. And if they get a ring out of it someday, awesome. If not, I'm taken care of. What do I care? And that's the thing. That everything is just so transactional now, and it's depressing when I let myself think about it. So I really should have said, no, maybe this isn't the best topic for me tonight, but here we are anyway. Anyway, mostly kidding because I'm kind of over it all now. But it's just,
Yeah, it is a sad state of affairs when you think about it, because I've always contended that this woke push that we've had with the whole transgenderism, with the whole saving the planet, with climate change, with this, that, the other thing, has always been about one thing, and that is population control. And I do think that this, though it was not the intent, it is being embraced as a good development towards that whole population control aspect.
oh, it
Um,
definitely is.
so, um, somebody was saying, there was somebody had posted that a matchmaker had been arrested because she would not give the money back or something. I don't know what happened. And they got into a tussle and she assaulted the guy or whatever. But basically, a lot of people don't know there are women and men who are matchmakers. That that's their job. They go through, they look at people who apply for relationships. They have an entire resume. They go through, this has been going on for decades, hundreds of years, I should say. I mean, if anybody ever watched, what was that? Which is the one that Topol was in? If I Were a Rich Man. What's that musical?
Not sure off the top of my head. I'm not big on musicals, so I don't really have much
Well, the
information.
song "Matchmaker, Matchmaker, Make Me a Match, Find Me
Oh,
a
that's
Find,
funny because
Catch
when you
Me
were
a
talking
Catch."
about Matchmaker a second ago, that song was in my head, and I still don't know.
Well, it exists for a reason. I mean, it has been a vocation for hundreds of years, and it's still going on. But apparently, it has become more difficult because, like I said, it used to be matchmaking back in the 80s. I believe there was one gal who did it at Texas A&M when I attended college, and she was a matchmaker, and you actually had to fill out an application, and it was very straightforward. Um, it was very simple, and then as you progressed, the next application was more detailed, and then the next one, so that way she could gather more information so that she could figure out who's your best match and that kind of thing. Nowadays, it's not like that. It's like I said, you have a lot of people saying, I'm looking for a guy who is already, he's working, he does six figures, he does this, he does that, he dresses well, I want him to have, and oh, and don't get me started on the gene matching. I want him to have black hair and blue eyes so that my children can have black hair and blue eyes, that kind of thing. And I'm like, you're designing your children before you even meet this guy?
That
That's
that's
kind
a
of
that's
bizarre.
a little cart before the horse. Oh, by the way, according to the chat, the name you were looking for was Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh,
And
thank you. Fiddler on the Roof. Yes.
and,
Topol was
um,
such a great, great actor.
and I'm not reading what Ordy said, so you're gonna have to go read that yourself. Just saying.
Let me see. Sneaky Pookie. Listen, I do think had I gone into the matchmaking business, I would have made bank. I really think I would have done so. But I'm like, it always smacked me of engineering, so I never did. But I was always honest but kind with all of my girlfriends. What do you think about this guy? And I would tell them my honest opinion, but I would do it kindly. And I remember my best friend, she was dating this one guy. He was in the Corps Cadets, and I did not like him. I didn't like him. I did not like him. I did not like this guy. I cannot stress to y'all how much I did not like this guy. But he made her happy. And I could not pinpoint anything that told me why I didn't like the guy, but it was there. There was an undercurrent all the time. And one day I'm in our dorm room and he comes by to see if she's around. And I tell him, no, she was supposed to be back from class, but she's in ID, industrial distribution. So she wasn't very far off. She was like 2 buildings down from our dorm. I said, but if you could possibly catch her, she's just in ID right now. And he said, okay. Now I kept my door open and everything. And I thought he had left. And I go out there and I turn to look, and he's there talking to another girl on our floor. And he's leaning. Okay. And I'm like, oh my God, he's leaning. That asshole. I was so incensed and I didn't know how to tell my girlfriend. So my girlfriend gets back. Apparently, she did stay behind to talk to one of her professors about a project that she was doing for his class. And she asked me if what's his name had come by, and I said yes, he did. And she looked at me and she sat down and she said, "Okay, you need to get it out of your. Uh, I don't know why you don't like him, but I don't understand. He's always been nice, and what is it?" And I told her, I said, "Look, maybe it's just me, but he was just down there with so and so, and his hand was on the wall, and he was leaning into her." And my girlfriend says, "He was leaning?" I said, "Yes." She broke up with him the following day because that's the thing you don't do. Guys don't lean unless they're interested.
Right?
And this was even in a movie. And if anybody watched While You Were Sleeping, he was leaning. Yeah, that's why, is this guy bothering you? Is he what is he doing? Because he's leaning. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's an actual thing. And and I told her, and she said, "You know what?" When after she broke up with him and everything, she told me that he was very hostile to her, that he called me names, and before she even said why she was breaking up with him, he accused me of of turning her against him. And that's when she knew, okay, Aggie was right. I should have paid attention to Aggie. Because otherwise he would have said, "Why? What happened? What did I do? Tell me so I can fix it." He would have actually he would have wanted to at least fix the problem, even if they couldn't fix the relationship. That's not what he did. So that's when she knew. But that, like I said, it was just like antenna. If I had antenna, yeah, they would have been waking. But yes, leaning is a thing. Leaning is a thing. But you catch a guy, he doesn't know how to lean now. He does not know how to lean. There are no men who know how to lean. All the men that know how to lean were Gen Xers and maybe the early millennials would know how to lean. But everybody else, no, nobody knows how to lean anymore. It's really weird. And you see this in movies a lot. You see the men leaning into women, and you see that there's interest because that tells you that the guy is interested in her. But I'm digressing. I shouldn't be talking about that. That was just an example.
Oh, well, I mean, it is a prime example, but you reminded me of something else because it was the other day, and I don't remember who it was, but some chick on X was screaming and yelling about how women don't want to date a man who plays video games, and
Oh
it
yeah.
just turned into this whole huge big deal. And I was like, and so that's your end all be all. I'm like, a lot of guys, I mean, guys I know that play video games, they're usually not out, going to bars, and they're not going to clubs, and they're not doing this, and they're not doing that. So yeah, they're usually pretty innocuous as long as you give them a little bit of game time, and you guys still spend some time together doing things that you enjoy together. Maybe once in a while. And I ran into this problem with my ex-wife, and that's one of the reasons why I started really thinking, maybe this wasn't a good idea. But by then it was kind of already too late, because I started getting into video games again because when I stopped working security and stopped going out and doing all the stuff at night that I was doing, I was like, I'm kind of bored. So I started playing video games, and it wasn't a lot, hour here and there. And she found out I was playing video games again, and she lost her shit. But she could go sit down and watch HGTV and all these other things and be mad at me when I'm not wanting to sit there and watch it with her. I'm like, that stuff does not entertain me. You have known this the entire time we've been together. It's not like this is a new relationship. Well, your video games don't entertain me. Like, okay, so you come and chill out with me while I'm playing video games once in a while, and maybe I'll watch some of this crap with you. Well, no, that's not fair. Okay, whatever. But yeah, it's just, and then I started joking with folks on X. I'm like, well, little does she know, guys who play video games are usually pretty good with their hands. Just saying. Just saying. Anyway. And Aggie's like, I'm not touching that.
No. It's it's just of how, yes, society changes, culture changes. That is true. And there is nothing wrong with adhering to certain cultural mores and norms that establish a good rapport between those who are seeking to unify as one couple and become a family unit, to make it clinical. But let's face it, our society has done a lot of damage to that whole family unit thing. And because of that, I do think that shares in the in in the in the responsibility of where we are today when it comes to courtship. Um, you have that hookup culture that was prevalent for the past few decades, where women were convinced that it was better to just hook up with a guy and discard him, and men saw that as a way to avoid responsibility, and they would discard the woman as well. And there was no it was just purely animal instinct, and there was no um, spiritual or emotional connection there. And sometimes there was an emotional connection, but it was mostly one-sided, and that would turn into a bad thing, because you would have your ex Cowboys cheerleader issue happening, with the whole stocky thing. But that's also something that is far more prevalent. This was something that we discussed in spiritual books. I was reading Lightning for not this past Monday, but the Monday before that. And one of the things that struck me was, rereading it today, the actions of the guy who was trying to court the main protagonist would have seemed a bit stalkish by today's standards. Back then it would have been courtship. Now people are saying, "Oh my God, he's stalking her," and it was innocent stalking, like by leaving little gifts for her, like a little frog of some sort, because she wrote stories about this frog. And so that's how he was courting her, by leaving the little frogs. um, Sort of like how my brother-in-law courted my sister, by checking out books he was never going to read. So, but nowadays that would seem, oh my God, I'm being stalked. Call the police. There would be a black and white parked in front of the house.
Stranger danger, stranger danger.
Pretty much, yeah. So, but there is a lot to be said for watching movies that society right now frowns on, because of those themes, because there was good courtship going on, because it was a happily ever after, where it wasn't about just being together. There was marriage going on, there were babies being made, that kind of thing. And so, can you imagine yours, mine, and ours being made today? I don't think so. People would laugh it out.
Oh no, yeah, it wouldn't be
They
made.
wouldn't. And yet it is one of the most endearing films. And it was remade, remember? There was a remake, and I think it was Dennis Quaid was in it. He was the dad. And there was a remake. But a lot of people said, "Oh, this would never happen." And I'm like, "Well, no, not today. Most people just have 2 kids and quit then." You know, but there was a time way back then that it wasn't unusual to have 6 or 7 children. So yours, mine, and ours actually made sense. Um, there's, there are some people who would watch. All right, let's pick While You Were Sleeping, because of the whole leaning situation. And they would be confused, because some of the things that happen in that movie, where the brother of the guy that she's supposedly engaged to, who is in a coma, but it's a huge misunderstanding. If you guys have not seen that movie, it is absolutely wholesome. It's got Sandra Bullock, and it's hilarious. So I highly recommend. Um, but most people nowadays would be like, "What is this whole leaning thing? What does that matter? And why
Yeah,
why
we're
does
getting
it
that in the chat
matter
right
that
now.
she knows the type of ice cream that he eats? And why does it matter that she knows, you know, the that he has a cat? That kind of things. The things that he was questioning her over were important, because that's how you get to know people. You observe them, and people don't observe anything anymore. They just don't pay attention. The situational awareness in this country is practically nil. And I don't mean when something bad is going to happen. It's just the person right in front of you. Sometimes people just don't see what's standing right in front of them. They really don't. They're so self-involved, they're so completely turned inward that they don't pay attention to anything that goes on. They may be it may be phone caused, or it may be just trying to like, gee, where's the best place for me to take a selfie so I can post it on Instagram? I was at, I kid you not, I was at, I think it was Hobby Lobby. I was in the flower section, the fake flower section, because I needed some fake flowers. I don't know what I was doing. But there was a girl and her boyfriend was holding these flowers so that they framed her face so that she could take her picture so she could post it on Instagram. Now, how do you know? You think I'm making this up? No, I actually went up and I asked, what are y'all doing? And she told me. And I looked at him and I said, and you're doing this for her? And he said, yeah. And he's like, and I said, that is so sweet and kind of you. And he thanked me, and she laughed and, kissed him on the cheek and said thank you, and that was that. But I mean, they do this. And to me, I thought that was okay because he was doing it for her. He had no questions. He just wanted her to have that moment. I get it. It's cute, whatever. But this exists where they actually look for the perfect place to have their selfie so that they can post it on social media. Anybody that saw um, the remake of Jumanji with The Rock, the first one,
Yeah, the first one was good. Second one, not so much.
not so much, but the first one was very good. And the blonde was doing the same thing in the morning. She would put everything, and then she would use the selfie stick, and it was like she was waking up. And I'm like, why do people think that that somebody else took that she took that picture, but it was a commentary on how self-centered she really was. And that's the problem that we have today. This egocentric need for the clicks, the likes, the validation on social media has actually prevented us from being more sociable in real life with other people, including those of the opposite sex or those that we're interested in a romantic liaison. So I'm at the point where it would behoove anybody who is a quote unquote matchmaker out there to start teaching people social graces 101. That would go a long ways. I remember taking classes for etiquette. That would also help, because a lot of people would think, oh, this is kind of quaint, and you see this, you see a lot of the millennials and a lot of the Gen Zers are discovering the old stuff again. They're going back to flip phones. They're going back to having, they're now making y'all a phone with a cradle, remember the old fashioned rotary phones that you can dock your iPhone on so that you can pick up the receiver and talk in it and slam it down if you need to. I am not kidding. They made this because people are wanting that back. People are wanting all of this stuff back. Slowly but surely, it's all coming back. So
Yeah, hitting in call is not nearly as satisfying as slamming a phone down. Just
no, it isn't. So it's just, for me, I'm kind of glad to see it. I'm kind of glad to see that whole, there was one of my niece's kids once a Discman. You remember those, right? The Discman
oh yeah,
that you could,
the,
with the little headphones, and you put it on your hip and you can play your CD, because that was the precursor was the Walkman, which was epic. When that came out, it broke all sorts of sales records. I mean, it was the most amazing thing on the planet. It was awesome. Yes, I still have one, but I can't find my cassette tapes. However, my niece's kid wanted a Discman, and her boyfriend searched forever to find one in really, really good condition. And he paid bank. I think he paid $200 for it and gave it to him for Christmas. And it is his favorite thing. He does not want an MP3 player. He does not want an iPod. He wanted the Discman that he could put the discs that he had in there. This kid is only 10, but that's what he wanted. And I've seen online where people are starting to go back to these things. They want the old technology now because they're too connected on social media, and they're starting to break away from that because it's so time consuming, it's soul consuming, and it's gotten way out of hand. And this is what I think they're starting to discover, that this has been detrimental to their communication skills and being able to conduct themselves in a public setting with other people away from social media. So I'm hoping that it's a good trend, that it continues.
Hopefully. Yeah, I was just looking. I guess Columbia House technically still exists, but they don't do anything like they used to. Looks like the latest they were doing things, looks like in 2015 they were still doing the whole, you can get 8 of these for a penny, but it was CDs by then. So I didn't even know that was still going on that late. That's kind of cool. So always reminds me of that meme of, Jesus remembers that you still owe Columbia House X amount of dollars. Because I remember there was one birthday my mom did that. She got me like a bunch of cassette tapes and then welched on the rest of it. She's like, hey, you got 8 cassette tapes for your birthday. Shut up. I'm like, but you signed in. Yeah. She's like, shut up. I got one U2 cassette tape that I wore out. But I don't know. I actually kind of miss cassette tapes. I mean, I like the fact that music's easy now and it's digital and you can just go find pretty much whatever you want to find and if you don't want to have commercials, you pay a little bit per month to not have commercials. But I kind of miss cassette tapes because I was talking to my middle son the other day. We were running errands yesterday, and somebody had redone Sunglasses at Night, and it came on through my YouTube music that I was playing in the car. I was like, I heard this. Like, this is not the original song, but it's pretty cool. He's like, I've never heard this before. I said, yeah, I had this cassette tape when I was 9 years old. Got it for Christmas with my first boombox, and I played it till it broke. And he just kind of chuckled. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, I was one of the weird kids in the 80s that actually liked Corey Hart. Judge away, I don't care. But all right, well, hey, we made it, and we didn't have any weather interruptions. Woohoo! Because I was worried there for a little bit. It's 9 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock.
Yep. Awesome. Well, so where can we find you?
Don't look for me. It's a trap. You can't really find me doing much tomorrow, but I'm going to jinx myself again, but just in the hopes that I manage to do so. Actually, I'm going to try to do some writing tomorrow during the first part of the day. And then Sunday night, I'll be doing Kingdom and Country at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Eastern, me trying to talk, take 2. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday next week, starting at noon Eastern, The Rick Robinson Show. Monday night, America Off the Rails, 10 p.m. Eastern. Tuesday night, Men Explained Poorly. Wednesday night, entire lineup, which I believe this week is Inquiry. And then we have the Toxic Masculinity Crew. Mm-hmm. Then we have Behind Enemy Lines, which I have to say, I finally know how some of the rest of the folks that I've roped into things feel, because I actually got the podcast version of Rick rolled from Gene and Ross, because they had me on for a couple times and their numbers started dipping and they're like, you should start guesting more. And now I'm just part of the crew. I actually saw a post the other day where they're like, if you've missed it, this was us, and I'm Gene, and this is Ross, and this is Rick, and we do this every Wednesday night. I was like, we do this every Wednesday night? When did that happen? And I was like, crap, this is exactly what I did to Jen and Namish. Damn it. So, yes, I created my own version of a podcast Rickroll kind of thing, and it was used against me recently. So, yeah, that'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, Rick and Orty, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'm usually pushing buttons for the SHR Media Crew for Edge of Liberty. Thursday, nothing during the day, so go hang out on their channel for Mission Ready Men briefing. Thursday night, hopefully Jen and Rick will be back. Well, no, I forgot. We will not be back because I have graduations. So I actually may not be here for Monday night because I have 2. Yay for having grandkids that are moving up in the world. Because I have my middle grandson, I think, if I'm doing the math right, is graduating kindergarten. So I got to go hang out for that. And then Thursday night, my oldest grandson is going to be in high school next year. So I have his 8th grade graduation. God, I'm old. So yeah, anyway.
Shut up. I'm older than you. Like what? 7 years now?
Same thing Amish tells me all the time. It's not the age, it's the mileage. I have been run over. I have been stabbed. I have been shot.
Good.
I have been shot
Fair.
at. So,
Fair.
yeah, just saying. All right. So, but yeah, so I guess I will probably, I may not be back in time for Rails. I'll try to have it prepped in case we get back in time because it's a bit of a trek. And then I'm pretty sure I won't be back in time for Thursday night, but we will see. And then Friday, after the Rick Robinson Show, Weekend News Roundup, Friday at 3, and then back around here with you. And then next week we have Juxtaposition at 10 p.m. Eastern because, can't ever not have enough shows or something. When I'm not doing all that, you can find me on X at RowdyRick73. You can follow along with everything we do at the KLRM Radio Network on X, YouTube, Facebook. We're also on Rumble, but it's listed under America's Podcast Network. You can also find everything we do at klrmradio.com. And I also produce a Loftus Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. And I contribute to the loftusparty.com, misfitspolitics.com, and twitchy.com. And I think that's it. And if it's not, I'm done talking anyway. How about you? Where can folks find more of you?
You can find me at Aggie the Barkeep over on X. You can find me 8:30 p.m. Tuesday nights with the Cocktail Lounge with the ever suave Brad Slager. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Friday nights doing He Said, She Said with you. This coming week, you can find me at Toxic Masculinity, 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday night. And first of Monday of the month, Jeff and I do Spirited Books at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So thanks for joining us, everyone, and we hope you have a lovely evening.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday night. And if you're out of the dating pool, be glad. Be very, very glad. Just saying. Bye, everybody. Say goodnight, Grace.